Yeah, you
Just
because
thought-
our way.
Firework expired.
So that was,
Get up
that was
high.
Oh, it's not good. It's job.
Right? Me down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like today.
Oh, yeah.
Your folders realize.
I have a burn hole on the carpet. So
Yeah.
far, yeah, I'm looking at temp right now. We're in Melville. Most of last week off. Puts me in a bind this time.
We always all act goes.
Just right now.
All these folks, so it's
Stop
not like,
going week.
well, got
Good, we
Oh.
getting ready to go.
Tommy.
Combine it.
Yeah.
Hang it back. So bad shape, that's ready to
Yes.
Oh, I-
give it up.
Well, actually, Michael, I think.
Now you go back.
George.
Really?
on the phone.
That's so, like an apple.
Oh, sure.
Oh,
Here we go.
Oh,
I'd like to call the Finance Committee of the whole to order and join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of
America,
republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
and Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Weber,
Here.
Commissioner Campbell.
Here.
Commissioner Jelzinski. Commissioner Engler,
Here.
Commissioner Marino,
Here.
Commissioner Swaney,
Here.
Commissioner Holt.
Here.
All present, Mr. Vice Chairman, except for Commissioner Jelzins.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Up next will be approval of the agenda. We'll start with general public comments on agenda items only. We have a presentation of the Michigan Development Corporation annual report. Katie Mora. We have no appointments to boards or commissions. Under committee reports, we've got several items of business, including a fiscal year 26 department requested budget draft number 2. We have no intergovernmental affairs, no administrative controller issues, no unfinished business or new business. We'll have general public comment again, open to any topic, and then announcements and adjournment. So with that, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So move, Marino. Support.
Been moved and supported. All those in favor say aye. Aye. We have an agenda. Next, general public comments on agenda items only.
So I'm here to speak about the rejection of the Register of Deeds appeal to return to a serviceable level under number 11 of the agenda. So first of all, I would like to point out that I was never given any type of proof of due diligence for the severe cuts in the fiscal 2025 budget that removed 37% of my staff, most of my budget, to a constitutionally mandated office that was proclaimed essential by the governor in several executive orders. How did we go from being praised at every board meeting for being the financial saving grace of the county to being shoved into the back corner of a dimly lit garage accompanied by rodents? I have compiled a chart which I can leave you guys with information if anybody wants any of those. Establishing serviceable level, and you will be able to clearly see that Isabella County does not fall within the staffing levels of counties with similar SEVs. Serviceable level is of the utmost importance for a service-oriented office. That service depends on employees. Remove the employees, you remove the service they were providing and the revenue that that service was generating. Remember, at the heart of the equation are the people relying on that service that you and I took an oath to serve. So one of the other things that I find interesting when I did this is that there are no counties with a higher population that have the same SEV. Also, there are no, the SEVs that were comparable to us a few years ago totally blow us out of the water now. So what's going on in our area? We need to figure that out and get that fixed, because that's what's at the root of our problem. Probably part of our financial problem. Under the current staffing level, with employees earning the maximum PTO, everyone in the Register of Deeds office does not have an equal opportunity to avail themselves of the benefits that they earn, and that's common sense. There is no way with 3 employees for all of us to be able to have equal opportunity to take vacation time. Right now, I'm working through the lunch hour. We post that we're closed during the lunch hour so that I can run over to the courts building to pick up the FedEx and UPS that they won't deliver to the building that we're presently in. Then at the end of the day, I have to take those mailings. There is no way to, there's no drop-off box in our area. We go all the way over to the other end where we used to have our office and drop those mailings off. So at the end of the day, I have to take those over there and drop those off. It's a continual cycle. You know, these are extra duties. You're continuing to do additional jobs. Obviously, where we're at, because of the inconvenience, it takes a lot longer to do the job that we have to do. So just would like you to reconsider, make sure that you're making the wise choice. And again, I was never given proof of the due diligence for the decision in the first place. Thank you.
Anyone else for general public comment? Okay, seeing no one else for general public comment. Mid-Michigan Development Corporation Annual Report, Katie Mora.
Great, thank you. It's wonderful to see you all. And before I jump into my report, I just want to say thank you for your continued support. This has obviously been a year that we didn't predict having, and so continued support from our partners has meant the world to me and to my staff. So thank you for that. I'm Katie Mora. I serve as president and CEO for Middle Michigan Development Corporation, and wanted to share with you our 2024 report and then give you some highlights for 2025 as well. But in front of you, you all have our report. We put this together every year to kind of highlight some of the work that we've been doing over the year. And so I'm just gonna focus in on a few different areas within the report for you all, and we can kind of go through that together. So on the very first page, when you flip open the cover, is our mission and vision and strategic plan. We set this for 2025, and this will take us through 2027. These are the tenets that kind of guide the work that we do. So my role is to really guide the Middle Michigan team to support our counties and our communities that we serve, helping to bolster up the economy and ensure that we are really focused on creating thriving communities. And so that really is at the core and at the root of everything that we do. We do that through a few different means. We do that through business retention and growth. The majority of what we do is business retention focused. So we're meeting with companies on a regular basis of all shapes and sizes that are here, making sure they have all the resources that they need to be able to be successful and stay here and continue to provide jobs and continue to provide a quality of life that we all enjoy in this region. We also do business attraction. This is where we may have a company that's looking to locate here. We want to make sure that they're going to be a good neighbor, and so we work collaboratively with our municipal partners, such as our county partners, to make sure that we are aligning that business with the opportunity here and vice versa. Through that initiative, we also go and represent our region at a variety of site selection events, making sure that we take those opportunities to highlight that this is a really great place to do business. We also do a lot with community development, and so this is where we might work with businesses in a downtown. We might work with a park-related project, but really looking at kind of that quality of life piece. We tie into this some of the work that we do with talent, trying to look at how do we ensure our population stays consistent or growing. We also are looking at things like housing and childcare under this particular umbrella as well. So really diverse in what we do and what we focus on. But again, our vision, our hope for Isabella County is to ensure that we are vibrant and thriving, and we're doing everything we can to support the economy here. If you flip over to page 3 and 4, we highlight some of our metrics from last year for local impact. Middle Michigan now represents 3 counties, and so this is kind of taking a snapshot actually at 4. We had Gladwin County directly being provided service through us last year. But this is a snapshot of some of the work that we have done on kind of that service area region level work that we've done. And a couple of things that I think are really key here for me at least, and that I'm particularly proud of, is that we not only met with a significant number of businesses, but we also really saw an increase in the work that we were able to do with each business. And that's a good sign for us that the businesses are really excited to partner with us and work with us, and we're able to provide them with some meaningful programs and support mechanisms that are going to help them to thrive. And then, of course, being able to bring money back into the region with local investments at $33.9 million last year, and then grant funding at about $8.2 million last year. More exciting numbers for us to be able to bring back and report on. Then if we flip to the next page for page 5 and 6, one of the big things that happened for us last year was that we moved our offices. And so if you're looking for where we are, we're still downtown. We're at 111 South University, and this is actually where Middle Michigan got its start. So we kind of came back home. And so if you're looking for us, that's where we are most of the time if we're not out meeting with businesses, and you're always welcome to stop by and say hello. Additionally, you'll see that we start to share some stories that are these next few pages in Isabella County. So everything from working with our college partners like Mid-Michigan College to assist them with some expansion plans that they had to better serve our manufacturers in the area through some programming that they're working on. And then if you flip to the next page, we have some of our companies here that have been doing some expansion projects, and we've been able to come alongside them and assist them along that way. And then, of course, if you go to page 10, you'll see the work that we've done with the DTE. We spent a lot of 2024 working both with the county and with DTE, again, to try to make sure that this project was something that not only took into account what DTE was looking at, but also what the county was looking at as well, and trying to figure out a way to help ensure that they could be a good neighbor as they move forward with that project. So brought groups together, sat at tables much like this to try to work through that project and help that to be as successful as it could be. They partnered with J-Rank, and so we also assisted J-Rank along that process as well. Again, continuing to try to play a role as someone that can kind of walk alongside all of the partners involved and engaged in these particular projects. That resulted in as well in a grant for the county. We do a lot of work actually helping to write out grants and fill out paperwork whenever that's appropriate, knowing that that's something that can be really helpful for both businesses and our municipal partners. So assisted with a grant for the county as well, and ensured that we were able to provide some support in that way. And then if you flip over to page 13 and 14, this is something that we've seen continue to grow for us, our Coming Home event and our 40 Under 40 initiative. If you're not familiar with our Coming Home event or our 40 Under 40 initiative, this is something that we've been doing to try to encourage our college students that graduate from local colleges and universities to stay in the area. We partner with Central Michigan University every fall during homecoming weekend. We typically have about 23 to 25 companies that will join us, and we introduce them to graduating college students who are looking for their next steps. We really want them to stay here. And so that has been a key initiative for us since 2019. We added 40 Under 40, which allows us to highlight some of our young professionals across 5 different counties in our region. And through that program, we've had such great feedback that we'll actually be hosting our own event for our 40 Under 40 instead of combining that with Coming Home. But I like to point this out because I think this is something that we don't often kind of talk about from an economic development standpoint organization. And it's something that's been evolving over time, but I think that it's really important and something that I've been really excited to see us continue to develop, because it's a big priority for us to keep individuals here and to help to sustain and grow our population. And then on the next page, we also talk a little bit about the work that we've been doing with housing. We were able to provide some support with Chill Grants, which allowed for some redevelopment of housing to take place. And then also have been doing a lot with the My Neighborhood program through MISHDA, and we're able to get some funds for some rehabilitation projects in Isabella County last year. And then I'll be sharing as well that we've been able to get some funding this year too. And then if you go to page 23 and 24, you'll see that we've been able to pull together a list of some of the small businesses that we've been able to identify as launching across our service area. And there are some on here that are in Isabella County. That's something that we are trying to make sure that even though a lot of the work that we do is related to more of that retention of some of our larger companies and attraction of larger companies into the area, we are also working with a lot of our small businesses and startups too. And so this is just a list of some that we've seen come into the area. Definitely not a complete list, but you know, I think it's always exciting when you can see a full page of businesses that are calling this place home. And then lastly, we wanted to do a tribute to Jim McBride, and so you'll see that on the last page. I think he would have really liked the Star Wars tribute in there. Sure. All of you probably know and remember with the annual reports, he always liked to put an Easter egg, and typically it was Star Wars related. So we thought he would approve if we put this in here for him. And so know that in my current role, I am trying to live up to that legacy. I want what's best for our communities that we serve. And so know for me that I am going to continue to be a strong advocate for our communities, for Isabella County, and be a partner to you all. And so if there's anything that I can do or our organization can do to better support you, let Brian know. Brian and I communicate pretty regularly, and we're happy to do that. Additionally, I always like to throw out that if there are any businesses that you feel have not met with us in a while, please let Brian know that as well, because we are a small team. I've got 4 people on my staff, and so it's sometimes we don't always know all of the new businesses that are launching, or there may be a business that we haven't heard from in a while. So please don't hesitate to let us know. And then lastly, for 2025, just a few things that we're working on right now. We received a grant from the MEDC to retain some of our CMU students here. So building off of that talent work that we've been doing. It's called the Make My Home program. We are partnering with the MEDC and then also a national group called Make My Move, which will help to promote the area for us. We're really excited about that. Already getting some interest from individuals in the Mount Pleasant area. But this program actually will allow for up to 10 students from CMU who graduate and decide to stay in the area to receive an incentive package from us. That incentive package will include everything from some funding for housing to a county park pass, to a YPN membership, different things that hopefully encourage them to stick and stay. And then they just need to live within kind of a 20-mile radius of the city of Mount Pleasant. So we were able to kind of expand that into some of our other communities as well. And then I mentioned the My Neighborhood grant through MSHDA. We have already assisted local developers with securing $440,000 in extra funding just in Isabella County this year for housing developments. We're doing a lot with childcare. We're continuing on as the facilitator for the East Central Child Care Coalition. We received another grant this year to be able to activate more childcare facilities. We assisted Hunty's Clubhouse out in Wynn to launch with 52 childcare slots available. And then we have another childcare facility in the city of Mount Pleasant that will hopefully be opening their doors really soon. So we're excited to see that happen. And then have partnered with Michigan Works to develop an apprenticeship program to continue to support childcare workforce. And then this morning found out that we'll also have access to some funds to actually help fund the payrolls of childcare facilities so that hopefully we get more people to work within the facilities that we have. So more details to come on that. We also received a Trusted Connector grant, which will allow us to bolster our support, particularly for small businesses and startups even more, and also provide some direct funding to businesses for facade improvements and technology improvements. And then lastly, we were selected to host a legislative tour here in Isabella County. We did one last year up in Clare. And so that will be either next month either this month or next month in August. But we are going to be highlighting some of the different programs and businesses that we've been able to provide some support to. We've done so many different types of projects that the state really felt like this was an ideal place to kind of highlight some of those projects and the work that we've been doing. So really proud of the fact that we are getting recognized on a state and national stage for the wonderful assets and resources that we have here. So hopefully you all feel very encouraged by all of those wonderful things that are happening. But again, I'm here to assist all of you. And so if there are any questions, I'm happy to take those, but wanted to make sure you got an update from me before we got any further into the year.
Yeah, question.
Yes.
On your childcare stuff, I mentioned it to ADCAP because, we have childcare stuff too. And also ADCAP is looking for a facility in Mount Pleasant, a building to do that. Is that part of that coalition that you talked about?
Yes, it should be. So we, the coalition itself represents 9 counties. And so anyone who is interested in participating is able to. It's open to anyone across the 9 counties that it serves. And so I will definitely follow up if they've not already connected with some of the other coalition members at this point in time.
Check with the president too. Thank you.
These chill grants, that looks interesting. Can you expand on that a little bit?
Yes, so the chill grants were specifically made available to try to provide some assistance to maintain housing stock. So these were programs designed to provide either grants or loans to homeowners who needed to do some specific repairs to their facilities. And so we were able to work with a few of our different municipal partners to activate some of those funds. Those are funds that I have not heard being distributed this particular year. I think they've kind of moved, MSHDA's kind of moved us into that My Neighborhood program. And there will be some additional funding coming out October 1 through that program, both for rehab and for new builds. Yeah.
Any questions, comments?
Just want
Yeah.
to comment, she's not gonna pat herself on the back, but you know, Katie, we're very fortunate to have her here. She's been recognized by various statewide agencies for what she's done here at Middle Michigan Development. So we're very fortunate to have her here.
Thank you. That means a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we have no appointments to boards and commissions, committee reports. And the first item is consider ratifying and placing on file the June 13th, 2025 invoice list in the amount of $356,329.79. The June 20th, 2025 invoice list in the amount of $482,052. The June 27th, 2025 invoice list in the amount of $415,406.54 in the adjustment list dated June 12th and the adjustment list dated June 26th. And Administrator Smith, do you want to walk us through these?
Yes, sir. For the June 13th, 2025 list, total amount, $256,329.79. Out of that, the general fund portion is $35,508.83. The big expenditures this run is Clark Construction for $89,128.52. For May construction charges for the correctional facility. We have the biannual animal control contract with HATS for $5,961.54. And then we got a couple of restitutions. We have manpower of $5,464.06. That is for contracted labor for the MERV, and then road professional services for remonumentation services for the Register of Deeds. Okay, and then for the June 20th, total amount of 210, wait. Number. It says 300. It says 210. There was a number here. Is it 210,000 or is it 300,485?
It is $210,309.66.
So that cover sheet is incorrect, okay. So for this, the corrected amount is, for the total invoice is $210,309.64. Out of that, the general fund portion is $58,036.11. The big ones out of this one is for Preston Community Services, $19,375. That is for the monthly equalization contract. Advanced Benefit Solutions of $17,910.53 for prescriptions. And PFM Solutions, $8,350.48. That is for the scenario implementation fee as we're getting everything put into the system. That is the cost that we're incurring as we have weekly meetings with them. So those are the big ones on this list.
Okay, any questions on that one? Okay,
Next one is the June 27th list, total invoice amount of $415,406.54. Out of that amount, the general fund portion is $126,671.70. The big items on this one is $21,489.20 for Advanced Benefit Solutions for monthly dental and vision insurance. We have our monthly rent for 510 and 614 West Pickard Road to MRP Properties for $17,091.46. And then we have various other public defender appointments, and we have one that's to J&J Auto for $7,000 $107.93 is for vehicle repairs, but MMRMA will reimburse this.
Any questions asked?
Okay, next we are to the adjustments list. This one is June 12th. We have, 3 things that were changed. One was to Cone Oil, one was to Homeworks Tri-County Electric, and one was to Wind Telecom to fix entry errors that were put in. And the rest were put in to avoid late fees and to get amount, taken off for early discounts. And if there's no questions, we'll go to the next one, the June 26th. It's the same thing. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 of the items on this were voided to fix issues that were incorrectly put in. But then the rest of them are Consumers Energy and Gordon Food Service, again, to avoid late fees or to get early discounts, early payment discounts.
Okay.
That was all I had, sir.
Thank you. Any questions on any of those? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to item 2, which is consider approving the fiscal year 2026 Victim Rights Prosecutor Grant application. Authorize prosecuting attorney to sign the same in Grams, and Prosecutor Kowalczyk is here with us.
So just very briefly, I believe you have all the information, but this is our annual grant with the State Department of Health and Human Services for our Victim Services Department. And so, again, this is an annual thing. Our request this year to the state was the same dollar amount as last year. And it was approved. So the state had sent us an approval letter basically in May indicating that our grant had been approved for that amount that we had budgeted or requested. So I don't know if anybody has any questions, but we itemized it, and Dorothy Marshall from my office handled that, and there's a staff report indicating it goes towards the salary for the victim advocates, and also benefits, and also services, things such as, just an example, I think last week we had a trial and then witnesses that were victims, and providing them lunch for their time waiting for their testimony. So part of it was in the morning, part of it with the witnesses was in the afternoon. So we had vouchers for lunch, providing lunch, and that sort of reimbursement. So that's regular, but that's part of just the kind of extra costs that's itemized through the direct victim needs. And sometimes they'll provide gas cards. I know that's been done. People travel. Example that, again, that trial last week, people were traveling upwards of 3 hours from the Detroit area to be up here. And it was a financial strain for them. So we had gas cards there for when they had testified earlier at a preliminary examination, also for trial purposes. So that's kind of just an example of those extra costs that were itemized, a little over $4,000 part of the grant. So if anybody has any questions, you have to try to answer them. But again, it's the same amount as last year. They approved it, and it's kind of a regular thing, and they said it's contingent on, let's see, well, it's contingent on the state not cutting that, but that's been approved by the state. Yes, yes.
Has that been consistent with like 2 years ago or 3 years ago? Is that,
Well, we'd have to refer to Dorothy. I think it's been pretty consistent. They've approved it every year, but
I don't know the approval, but
is it gone up?
it's gone up and down.
We had an increase, I think, a larger increase back in 2019.
Okay.
Was our last kind of big
Increase.
increase. It's been kind of stable since then.
It's been a good funding source, quite honestly, by the state. I couldn't imagine the state would pull the plug on that, but I can't imagine that at all, but
It's been a popular program for years, so.
it's been in place for quite a long time, so it seems to be a fixture with the state. Never say never on anything, right? But we couldn't imagine that they would pull the funding or the grant on something like that. So.
Maybe you can extend our appreciation and thanks to these folks that do this work and guide these folks through some pretty traumatic.
We honestly, we have, so I've been in the office for quite a while, but I would say this is our best victim advocates that we have had, and we've had good ones, but they're professional. They explain the system to our victims. They have close contact with our victims. I'm extremely pleased how professional they are, how timely they are going over to the court, meeting with people. If attorneys need more contact to prepare for hearings, they will drop everything and immediately contact those people. So they are terrific, quite honestly. They are really a valuable resource in a lot of areas. I think one of the, not long ago when I came and spoke, we had a case where one of our victims had been shot by the defendant. And so this person didn't have any sort of health care insurance. And so our victim advocate initiated through the state getting funding from the state of Michigan to pay for his emergency medical services. It was like $26,000. So she went above and beyond that to assist the victim in that respect. And otherwise, not sure what would happen with that bill, but the state had covered it. And then on top of it, I think he was going to apply for services. He needed a follow-up surgery. She was trying to assist him to do that. Hopefully that's on our victim to follow through with that because the case is included, but she had provided all the paperwork to him, assistance to try to fill out that paperwork to get it back to the state to apply. And so, again, she's gone that particular instance above and beyond the call of duty by far. So again, she's our coordinator. We've got terrific people. We're just really top notch. Okay. And again, if anybody wants to come to our, I know Mr. Moreno wanted to, we're open anytime to have the commissioners come over to our office, look at our space if they have to or want to. So we have that open invitation anytime. Even today. So,
Thank you. Okay. That'll move to next week's meeting and brings us down to item number 3. Consider approving the Michigan Public Safety Communication Systems member credit offer in the amount of $129,173, as well as resolution 2025-07 as required by MPSCS and authorize board chairperson to sign the same.
We're getting close to being done with this project. So this is something the state's done throughout the state for a long time when there's big projects like that. We weren't sure if we were going to be a recipient because the money came from the state originally, but at the end of the day, they did grant us some credit. So basically that is exactly what it is. It says credit. So they require a $200 fee every time we program a radio initially. And then I think it's once a year you can do it. Then you do it twice a year, then you've got to pay for that. So all these new radios that we have that are being inventoried and sent to the state for the templates will be paid for from these credits. So it doesn't come out of the actual $4.8 million grant, doesn't come out of general fund, doesn't come out of anything else. So it's just a good thing. We signed it, got it done real quick, whatever, but then they said, no, oh gosh, you got to have a resolution, so we're back at the table to get a resolution, but no money out of the county's pocket at all. It's just good to have. And then my calculations, we won't use it all, but again, we can extend that to fire and EMS and whoever else. When they buy radios, we can just continue to use those credits for those folks and not have to pay that as well. So that's just kind of an added bonus to the project. Project update, just got the MOU signed from the tribe so they can start the BDA or bidirectional antennas, the tribal schools. Shepherd's all set moving forward. Radios are all in, being inventoried. All the templates, I believe, are in for the most part. headed to the state, so they'll give them the radio IDs and the templates, and they take a little while at the state to get the templates put in, or at least designed, and then we can put them in ourselves, so we're moving forward pretty quickly with that. I just signed the next round of billing, and then there'll be one final one after that, and that leaves us the $99,952 or whatever it is that we've earmarked for the CMU / Central Dispatch backup. So they got some 2% money, we got money left over for cleanup, and then CMU is putting money towards it, so it's a good project to get their backup center and CMU up to speed as well. So that'll zero us out, and I won't talk about that anymore. It's been a long project, but it's been a good project.
A great project.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, on the remaining credit balance, is there a sunset on that, 62,000 on that?
Not that I seen anywhere, so I didn't
Okay.
read that in anywhere. Yeah, I wondered that too, but I don't believe there is until we use that up, so.
They use it up.
And honestly, when you program these radios, very seldom do we ever reprogram radios. Once in a while, you might add a frequency, whatever. I think the law enforcement team has been very diligent, working with dispatch on preparing for the future, which is some encryption coming down the path, and so we've got all that built in. We've got templates built in. We've designed it, so I think the next generation is going to be good for these radios.
Great. Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Sheriff. Item number 4, consider approving the Central Square One Solution quote in an amount of $129,038.68 and authorize board chairperson to sign the same. Get us.
Morning. So this is a quote for our CAD software. We switched 2 years ago to TAC 10, Global Public Safety TAC 10. And needless to say, in the 2 years that we've been there, we've had 424 tickets total. So it's been a rough road. What we've come up with is that it's just not reliable software. It's crashed in the middle of calls while we take calls and stuff like that. So one specific call comes to mind where it was a PI accident, mission and baseline, and my dispatcher was taking the information and it just went to the home screen. So that's a problem for us. It's an officer safety issue. It's and we're going on 2 years for it. So we resorting back to Central Square. We were with that CAD company for 20 plus years when I started as a dispatcher all the way up through. So myself and my operations manager is very well knowledged and versed in this program. So we are wanting to go back, and our partners at CMU and at the city have signed on already with their record management portion of this. So we're looking to go back to the CAD portion.
Sounds good.
Is this have a term limit on the contract that, because I see that years 4 and onward, we've got a 5% increase. Is that into?
It could go into 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Right. Are we just re-signing after 5 years, or are we going to redo a contract?
I don't believe we have to redo a contract after 5 years. I think it's just the annual service fee. That's the structure that they take. I don't foresee us having to come back to the board and sign another agreement. At least we haven't done that in the past. I don't recall us coming back after 5 years with it. So I doubt that we would have to do it again.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, we'll move this item to next week's board meeting. And item 5 is consider approving the fiscal year 24 Homeland Security Grant Program intergovernmental agreement between the West Michigan Regional Medical Consortium and Isabella County Emergency Management, and authorize both chairperson to sign the same.
So this has been presented before in the past. It's a grant that Homeland Security Grant Program, the HSGP. This is an intergovernmental agreement between the fiduciary and Isabella County, stating that $18,144 is what they're fronting, and this is just the intergovernmental agreement to support that. So we've already allocated funds for this money for our planners' wages that is currently, and then also a hazmat decon 10 for this year. And then anything remaining will be used to be purchased on breaching tools for our law enforcement partners.
And so it's
Mhm.
reimbursed.
Yes, yep.
Yes, sir.
And for the new commissioners, this is one that always. It's for 2024 grant approval, so we're always a year behind, but it's been that way ever since I've been here, and it's a little confusing, but it's the way they set the program up, so we're actually approving the 2024 grant in 2025, but. That never made sense to me, but it's always been that way, so.
Okay,
Sir.
thank you. And we'll move that item to next week's board meeting. And item number 6 is consider approving the addition of 2 FTE positions to the approved staffing list within the corrections department, which would equate to up to 4 part not eligible for employer benefits positions to serve as on-call transport roles.
So I was told to write it that way, so it sounds confusing to me, so hopefully it doesn't confuse everybody else, but I think to the people in the back, it made sense, but, yeah, so basically they're not full-time positions, they're not even part-time positions, they're not seasonal positions. We've utilized them over the contract of our US Marshal Service, off and on. As we discussed it further and stuff, just to make it right with, Brian and his staff and the, auditors and stuff, we just feel we probably should create something there just so it's, lines up a little better. These are retired people. So on our US Marshal contract, part of the contract is that we have to provide federal inmate transports, and those transports have to be by a certified police officer or a certified corrections officer, and you have to send 2 of them. Right now our numbers are up. We're making some good revenue for the county through that program, so we really don't want to jeopardize that. But it becomes very difficult with our staffing levels right now. So we have over the, is retired law enforcement or whoever want to come into it. We have one that's been doing it a little bit. She's a corrections officer, was for us, but still kind of wanted to do some of that work. It does help us a ton. And yesterday was a prime example when we got a federal transport. A second lieutenant in the jail flexed his days to come in to take it. They had to take one of the corrections officers. And I knew we were in trouble when I seen the arraignment sheet over the weekend. We had about 15 people in jail. That is a heavy load for arraignments and courts and public defenders. And so at 12:15, I ate my soup as quick as I could. And then I went back there until about 5 o'clock, and I ran the entire doors and all of the video and all of the movement stuff on the computer. Well, the undersheriff moved all the inmates to arraignments and medical, while the other staff were trying to keep up with the paperwork coming from the courts, and it was a long day. So if we would have had to fulfill that, we'd have had to take in another person or order someone in on overtime or potentially double time. So this contract pays, I think it's around $25 an hour for these transports. We pay a couple dollars under that, so that indirect costs and some of that FICA stuff is kind of covered. So it's really nothing out of pocket. We don't lose anything. And typically we send one of our people with, that's working with one of them other people. So we actually make some money on the transport as well. And again, revenue's been up right now for our federal inmates. So we really just, when we get those folks, 3 or 4 of them that we can, it's just very helpful to us.
Yes.
So this is reimbursing, so that it's not affecting our general fund.
No.
But these same people you can use in emergency outside of the federal program if you need it.
Yeah.
And it might affect
yeah,
our
'cause
general
they're-
fund to some extent.
And it could a little bit, yeah, they are certified law enforcement officers. Police officer has to be, we have to have them on the rolls, basically, just because MCOs requires that. So yeah, in an emergency, we could utilize that. We've been challenged, the last several months here, so we've actually used our Michigan Community College SROs a couple times to do transports, and pay them out of that. So, it's just wherever we can find a breathing body, we grab them for a few minutes. So, but this is more, and we've been doing this off and on, but this is more for Brian and his staff to get the right stuff in place for auditors and budgeting and all the things that come along with that. So it's just kind of a cleanup really to get that done, but we certainly don't want to jeopardize those transports. Right now, the Marshal Service is working very well with us. And like I said, our numbers are up and we're bringing in some pretty decent revenue. I want to caveat that for anybody listening that, that goes all over, right? So we just can't say, hey, we're making X amount of dollars, so we should have enough money to do this. Why, we just can't sometimes count on some of that. So, comes and goes. Right now, we're making some decent revenue off of it. Our commissary accounts go up pretty high. Our federal inmates, so they buy a lot of things. So it's just a win-win all the way around for us. We need a little help in this one piece here to help the transports.
I know, speaking for the other members of the board and administration, I know that's been our concern is the impacts on your correctional staff after the loss of road patrol. So commend you on using some ingenuity and helping to lessen that issue.
We're trying to figure that out. We have mandated employees a lot lately and that burns them out. And if we start losing them, we are really going to be in trouble. That's why 2 lieutenants and myself and undersheriff keep backfilling. We go back there, when things are in crisis, or like yesterday, it was they were just overwhelmed. They just weren't able to keep up with yesterday's stuff. So it is extremely beneficial. And we are still working on the MIDC potential grant opportunity. I got some more things I got to work with Mr. Hausman on, but yeah, it's been challenging for sure.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, like I said, basically this is just kind of a cleanup. I said when we started at 218, we got certified. It was a good, like I said, the federal rates so much more than state rates and everything. So made good sense. And then I think COVID hit and it dropped off to nothing. So now everything's picked up and now we just kind of need to clean it up and get it in there. So for a while there, during COVID, there was nothing, but first started, it was a good deal. Still is a great deal. So.
And those positions are hard to come by sometimes too. We don't, once in a while we have a couple and then we don't have any. So it's whether or not they want to come back and do that for a little bit. A lot of them do that just to keep their certification active and kind of still be in that fold of law enforcement, whatever. But
I'm glad that's the case.
yes, yeah.
I noticed you've had a busy weekend. I think I saw 8 intakes just yesterday. So.
Well, and that didn't help that, we got some remanded from the court a little bit, and then we had several walk-ins that didn't help our cause yesterday. So, yeah, so the undersheriff was up getting new arrests, bringing them back, and he was taking medical, and he was taking, and then I was, and I ran that, and that's a pretty complicated system and board, and I ran that a little bit during pre-opening. So the housing and how that works is they can dump that into the intake area when they're busy. So they got busy, so they dumped all of their stuff to me as well. So when I walked up there, the whole board was lit red, and I'm like, oh, jeepers. So staff probably pulled their hair out, but it was about 25 minutes. I had it down pat, and I had it cleared, and I was popping doors and looking at cameras and monitoring things, and come to me quick. So it is what it is. So all hands on deck basically right now.
These transports, are they mainly just taking people to court over in Bay City, or?
So the transports are kind of interesting. So typically probably 85% of our transports are Bay City to the federal court over there. However, we do make runs to Detroit. Those are a little harder for us and are all day ones. However, when we start working for the U.S. Marshals on their dime on that transport, we get to Bay City and they say, go to Saginaw and pick this one up and bring them over here. They'll run them all over. So they just don't get the set there sometimes. So they're running all over the place.
Once they know you've got a guy on the road.
Yeah, like we're on their dime, so they're running us all over. But in some days you just go over there and set with for the court to be over with. And you go down to Detroit, you're definitely going to be running. They'll bounce you all over, moving people around. And so, like I said, we've got a good relationship with the marshals right now. They gave us some more inmates, so it's been good for us as well.
And I know you've stated before that generally these folks that we're holding, they go to court usually in Bay City, and then they get sentenced and they're off to wherever. They don't stay here in Isabella County.
No, so, and the federal inmates are, you know, they come from all over the state, all over the country sometimes, but if they are, sentenced, the Bureau of Prisons come in, the marshals transport them with the Bureau of Prisons, they could go anywhere in the United States. If they serve their time and they're acquitted, usually before they're done with their court, if it's coming to an end, they'll transfer them to another facility closer to wherever they're living at or whatever, so they finish up there, but none of them walk out our front door. They all get transported back to where they kind of, you know, originated from. Now, part of the reason we did that contract was we have a federal reservation within our boundaries, so that helped that as well, because originally we would have to, if we had a federal charge on someone, we would have to take them to a different agency, like out of county, and it was pretty cumbersome. So those folks obviously they live here, they come back into our communities as well if they're released. So that'd be the usual only ones that would stay here, ones that, you know, originated from here.
Yeah,
Yeah, and you guys really didn't get a holiday either, so appreciate you coming out, you and the undersheriff, to the local lakes and keeping an eye on that on 4th of July, where we're all having fun.
You could call and tell my wife that.
Yeah. Get a smile on the face.
Sometimes I hear about that, so.
Right, I bet, yep.
Yeah, they were, we did that contract for Lake Isabella, and then they were on the lake, the undersheriff and the lieutenant went out, so they were out there on the lake, and they actually responded to a young girl who went into the water and had a seizure, and we're right there on top of it, so they were, I mean, worked, so it was good.
Yeah, wow.
thank you. And we will move that item to next week's meeting. And item number 7 is consider approving the initial purchase of the Bobcat G33 fork truck in the amount of $34,391 using 2% funds and then submitting for reimbursement under the terms of the contract with the Saginaw Chippewa Indian Tribe regarding the EPA infrastructure grant, and ask the board chairperson to sign the same.
Morning.
Hi.
This is the first initial purchase with that Swiffer grant, or for that Swiffer grant with the tribe through the EPA. As we previously discussed in other meetings, that this is the, it comes at the least cost. So we thought we'd start with the fork truck. So that way we can kind of see what the timeline is for reimbursement on that unit. When I know that typically for purchases over $25,000, the county requires us to go out for a RFP for that equipment. But since we're under contract with the tribe, we reached out to them to ask what their requirements were for this equipment. And they told us that they would require us to have 3 different quotes to move forward with it. So we reached out to 3 companies, received 3 different quotes. When we were looking at those units, we were also taking into consideration lead time, availability of parts moving forward, things of that nature. You know, with a lot of things going on with the tariffs and everything else, we have to be able to maintain the equipment once we get it too. So the unit came in at the least cost, and the lead time of 12 weeks was that Bobcat G33.
I think that pretty much covers everything.
Yeah.
And we are using 2% funding to be able to cover the upfront expense. There is some trade or resale value off of the old equipment that will be money coming back as well.
Mhm.
But the initial funding will be sent for reimbursement through EPA.
And this will give us a timeline on what that looks like for how long before we'll get reimbursed for them funds. The tribe, I think one of the purchases that they made was for a van for the recycle department.
Yeah.
And they've already received their funds back from that, so.
They said, I think within 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Was
Yeah.
returned on that funding, so.
Good. Enough. Any questions?
Yeah, real quick.
When you guys are purchasing this equipment, are you also looking at, service contracts?
We don't normally work on service contracts. Part of the reasoning behind that is that you're gonna be tied to one particular vendor on a service contract. And there may be times that you can get service done a lot cheaper, considering that we own it rather than it being a lease or anything of that.
Like in the past, you did have, when I first started, we did have them under a service contract. We moved to this purchase and then the resale value seemed to benefit tremendously.
It does.
All right, we'll move this item to next week's meeting. Thank you. Brings us down to item 8, consider approving the grant agreement from the Mount Pleasant Area Community Foundation accepting funds for 10 to 12 small countertop biodigesters in the amount of $5,000 and authorize the board chairperson to sign the same.
I'm gonna let Helen explain the premise of the grant that we applied for. She has the background on a lot of this, but collaborative effort with the Saginaw Chippewa tribe to be able to get some data is really what we were looking at trying to do. And, you know, and how possibly local restaurants and or local businesses with any kind of food scrap product can look to be able to try and get some kind of a benefit back on it.
Good morning. So this program evolved out of meetings with the Saginaw Chippewa Indian tribe that have been going on for about a year, mainly on a quarterly basis. They're called sustainability team meetings. And we had discussed food waste and food scraps and the fact that about 1/4 of landfill solid municipal waste is comprised of food waste. And, you know, it affects methane gases and all of that. So if you look up EPA and USDA and all of those statistics on this, it's pretty eye-opening about the emissions from food waste. So when we discussed this, it was way back in August. What could we do to seek funding to provide some of these units? These are called aerobic biodigesters. And so it's not a dehydrator. It's a compost on your kitchen counter, so to speak. Unit about yay big. And there was an individual that came, a company that presented at our meeting in August and described, you know, what this unit does, how quickly it can break down food waste, which is in about 24 hours, 90% of that food waste is broken down. And it looks like coffee grounds. So you can put about 2.5, little over 2.2 pounds of food in there, you know, scraps and peelings, and there's the acceptable list, and then there's a small not acceptable list of, like, say, large pits and that type of thing. But it's different than dehydrating, which basically just heats food up. There's a lack of fermentation. There's no microorganisms. So effectively with this biodigestion process, the microorganisms that you start with, then you put the food scraps in it, it breaks it down quickly, but it leaves in that microorganism and that energy in order to mix it with soil or peat moss and things like that. So you wouldn't want to just throw this, you know, small bag of coffee grounds, I'll call it, but it's the, you know, the breakdown into your plants and your garden, because it'd be very strong. So you'd want to mix it. There's instructions on how you do that with these. So when we originally applied, we got about half of the funding. So we're really happy and appreciative of the foundation for Mount Pleasant Area Foundation for funding this. So we thought maybe 20 units, but now we're going to get like 10 to 12 units, and they will give us a discount on these. The retail price is right around $500, but they're going to give us close to a 28% to 30% discount in our bid. So we're happy about that. And when these units go out to the various entities, then it'll be about a 5-month window where we'll ask them to monitor how much did you put in. Maybe every other week, we've got to kind of set up that parameter. What came out and how effective it was, how easy it was to use, the pros and cons and all that stuff, so we can put that into our research for this pilot project. See if there's anything else. So we're pretty excited about it, and we had already identified in sitting down with the environmental specialists at the tribe where these facilities are that they had already talked to them about, like 7th generation, for instance. They do have gardens, and they like to put, enrich that soil, and they're growing flowers and plants and vegetables and things like that. So we already identified some of those, and a couple of nursing homes, a couple of businesses that produce, like say dozens of eggshells every week and that type of thing. So we're going to go back to them, ask them if they'd like to proceed with the program and partner with us, and then get these units on their kitchen counters and go there. So.
Keep in mind that sustainability team is the Saginaw Chippewa Indian Tribe. I think somebody from the city as well. CMU is part of that. So, it's not just us and the Saginaw Chippewa Tribe. There is other entities involved with it that, it makes for good sense for us to be able to work with that, show what these little systems can do, to be able to see if anybody moving forward, whether it be CMU kitchens, whether it be the kitchens at the Saginaw Chippewa Indian Casino, whether these are things that they could maybe scale up to look at doing in the future. So.
Was it you that was telling me sometime back that Western Michigan University has these in their dining?
Western Michigan has one. Gun Lake Casino has one. I believe one of the restaurants at I think it's Greenfield Village has one that they're using now. I think the kitchen at Greenfield Village is running somewhere around 300 pounds. I don't know if it's 300 pounds a week or 300 pounds a day that they're running through these machines on a much larger scale. But the machines are. But the ability, Gun Lake has talked about the units that they're using there. They're helping to enrich some of their soils around their Gun Lake campus area and some of their wild rice productions to be able to increase their wild rice production. Interesting, if you look at the international scale, how much some of this stuff is done internationally. So many other foreign countries, composting is actually, to be honest, it's on a higher scale than what waste is, because that is all part of the waste reclamation process.
How big are these units? Just out of curiosity.
About this tall and squared off like this.
Okay.
And the lid, you just put your foot like, kind of like you have a fancy truck, and it goes up, it goes up. And it has a pedal in there, metal, and it circulates all day long. It doesn't smell. It's less noisy than some of the other units that are advertised, or the dehydrated capacity is a little bit bigger. So there's no good features.
Have you informed the Chamber of Commerce? Just build the system and all that stuff. They do presentations all the time. Maybe even at after hours or at lunch one.
I think that would be something, Commissioner, that we would look to try and do once we have the data.
Okay.
To be able to support, to make sure that we're presenting something to them that we know is known.
Got it.
Yes, there's a known quantity or quality to it.
When the business, when they had brought the unit, I was so excited about it. A couple months later, we got one for my mom, my siblings and I, because we just thought, let's try this at home, do our own little trial and stuff. So she's got one and she's too nervous to use it yet, but we're very self-explanatory, but we're gonna get together and she's gonna start utilizing it, and she does a ton of gardening stuff, so.
Thanks. Yes, sir.
I think these are great units for commercial or larger scale producers of organic waste. As a person that's been using composters for many, many years at home, one of my compost bins, because of the effect of sunlight, disintegrated, so I'm down to one. Do you still provide composting units through the recycling program? Are there units other than those black ones that are standalone that might rotate to get more household use of compost going?
What we've done, we have not carried any of the composters as far as inventory is concerned. It's like anything, you're trying to save money, so we don't want to spend money on inventory. But we will give direct links to composters and the availability, with everything being so, you can order it off your phone. We can provide links and just make it easier, and then the county's not carrying inventory.
That sounds reasonable. In your app, do you provide information to that effect? Because I don't know how many households do compost. I know we benefit our garden from it.
I think that would be a question better for Charity rather than, because Charity's doing a lot of the app for Recycle Coach. And if it's not on there, we will do everything we can to make sure that it gets put on there, sir.
Thank you.
Good. Any other questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
And we will move that item next week's meeting. And item number 9 is consider approving the grant agreement from the Mount Pleasant Area Community Foundation accepting funds for the Deerfield Nature Park Fishing Platform renovation project in the amount of $12,000 and authorize the board chairperson to sign the same. And Director Hanson.
Morning.
Hi.
So because of the process for application for this grant, I know I've already come and talked to the board about this project. We did receive our full funding request from the Access to Recreation Fund through the Community Foundation. And I do just want to say a little shout out to Rachel Rowland, who is on our administrative staff. Since I started, she has yet to not receive a grant that was competitive that we went after. There was one instance with something with MMRMA that we kind of knew was a long shot, but we requested anyway. So every competitive grant that she's written since I've been here, we have received. So she's doing an excellent job of getting funding for our department for these projects. So that being said, this is a pretty straightforward agreement. We don't need a resolution. We just need signature. So what we're doing with this agreement is accepting $12,000 from the Community Foundation. Our estimate for the project is $27,000. So we have this built into next year's budget with our fund contributing $15,000. However, we're anticipating the cost potentially to come in lower. What we're planning to do is utilize engineered drawings from the platform at Gilmore Park. So we may have a little bit of permitting and engineering costs, but they'll be pretty low because we're reusing that design. We do have to get a permit from Eagle because this is within the ordinary high water mark of the river out at Deerfield. But we already know the cost of that permit. So we're looking forward to just getting this project going. The first step will be getting the permitting from Eagle so that we know we're good to move forward. But again, just want to accept these funds and get things rolling on this project. Any questions?
Everything goes good. You have a projected time when you might start?
Yeah, so we're thinking because of the way the budget cycle falls, we've put the funding for this project in the next fiscal year. So probably this fall we would work on getting permitting, make sure designs are finalized. If we have to bring on any contractor, we would do that. And then next spring, our goal would be to have construction done pretty early. Ideally, we would like to see this finished by the end of next summer, for sure for fishing. And then another thing we're going to work on after this renovation is done We're kind of in the process of starting to promote our facilities more for events, open houses, wedding ceremonies, things like that. So if we can get this done, even by the end of summer, we can maybe still hit some of those fall wedding planning people. So we're gonna go after it as aggressively as we can. I would anticipate sometime next field season this being done.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Excuse me, and we'll move that item to next week's regular session. And then item 10 is consider approving the municipal employees retirement system employee delegate Mary Weiss, alternate employee delegate Tim Newport, officer delegate Chris Whitmer, and alternate office delegate Brian Smith to serve at the annual MERS conference on October 16th and October 17th, 2025, with fees and expenses paid by the county for the delegates attend.
Okay, this is something that in the past, the board has approved the sending. This is just sending one officer delegate and one employee delegate. So it's only two people. It's not the four that are listed. The alternates are just in case that the main one can't make it. There was an election that took place that was sent out to the employees for an employee delegate, and Mary Weiss was selected and was affirmed by Teresa in HR and Julie McKinley from administration office on the vote tally on this. I would recommend, if there's any questions, that you pull up on this. There is a MERS annual conference. It's the agenda that goes along with it. I think when you see some of the topics that are addressed and going on, I think you'll find that it is a valuable thing for the employees to go to, especially when you have from the officer delegates going to understand the actuarial that's going into the, especially the defined benefit. And also for the employee to go there and to kind of learn more about the latest trends in retirement planning and stuff like that so that they can kind of take it back. And so there's various training seminars for the officer delegate and employee delegate for this.
I've attended this for, so it is so very valuable, especially since like Gatsby stuff always changes all the time, especially governments. It's important for everybody to realize just the impact of all that stuff, those things.
Yeah, and if we don't send delegates there, we lose our vote because the delegates have voting privileges and the amount of money that we send to mayors. We have representation there. If we don't get a vote, so.
Where's the conference?
This is in Traverse City this year, and this is a requirement, MERS requires us every year that the board approve the names of who's going up there.
Okay. Any questions, comments? All right, then we will move that item to next week's meeting, and brings us down to the last item 11, discussion regarding the fiscal year 26 department requested budget draft number 2.
Okay, on the draft, you will see that on the third column, you'll have 2025 on there. There's a year-to-date. You may have a corrected version or you may have the old one where it says year-to-date 5/31/24. It should be 5/31/25. That was on all the three columns. So you may have a corrected version of that. I just want to let you know that originally an incorrect version was sent out. So the first, I will look at the cover sheet. That is where it's the general fund requested and recommended reconciliation. On the first report to the board that was on 5/27, there was a net of revenues versus expenditures of $389,525. Since that time, there's been a $90,674 decrease to property taxes due to the City of Mount Pleasant Central Business District 75% capture. So that is a decrease of $90,674. And there's also an increase, the transfer in from the CPL fund for the market rate adjustment, health and HRA increase of $10,718. So there's a net decrease to revenues of 79,956. Now the adjustments to the expenditures, there was a 12.8 increase to Blue Cross Blue Shield, 22.6% increase to HRA, 8.3% increase to the prescription. And underneath that, you can see what we had planned for those various ones. So this is a general fund increase of all the expenses related to health insurance of 102,742. The next line is there was adjustments to the market rate implementation, which reflects the FICA, workers' comp and retirement, and increase of $88,730. Next is treasurer tax levy bond insurance of $15,000. And then there was a transfer out to community corrections of $33,000 that was omitted on the first draft, and now it has been since corrected. So after all these total adjustments amount to a negative $319,428, leaves us on this second report to this finance committee, the whole $70,097 remaining on this amount. If we were to look into the individual departments, you'll see, I won't go through them all. The changes that would be reflected overall would be your health insurance in there. So that's why there would be some changes on the various ones versus the original draft. And then on the next following page, you'll see the major funds, which includes the general fund, the Parks and Recreation, Central Dispatch, Commission on Aging, Building Inspection, and Recycling. Those have had some changes as well with the health insurance. Now, if we look at the personnel request, and it was brought up earlier in the meeting, when we are still trying to stabilize the budget. We're not out of the woods by any sense of imagination. Now, don't think that these positions are needed in the register of deeds or for custodian for Steve or all these other positions. Yeah, they're probably needed, but we need to stabilize. And so right now, my recommendation is that we look at what's critical. And I think critical right now is to get a part-time position in the IT department right now. So, but again, that's my recommendation. Ultimately, the board has the final decision on all those items. So I just want to make sure that it is stressed as we see that $70,000, we're 70,000 over having to go into fund balance again. And so I want to get a solid budget that has no use of fund balance and no use of delinquent tax fund. And right now we're 70,000. We still have some unknown costs. We don't know what's going to, when we get into a new building, what the building expenses are going to be for the bond that would have to go along with it. There's a lot of unknowns right now. We have, I believe, 200 some thousand in contingency, and that will go very quickly. Let's see. Contingency right now, we have 250,000 budgeted. We have, the 70,000, I think, before we approve it, that 70,000 is probably gonna be gone and other miscellaneous things that were not caught, or if we get revenue sharing numbers, we're based off revenue sharing from the executive recommendations from February. They're slow on their budget. And so will there be any modifications to that? We don't know. And so I'm just recommending that this be, that I'm presenting this as a recommendation again. And if you have any questions, I'm sure Finance Director Whitmer will be more than happy to come up and answer them as well if I can. Listen.
I just wanted to commend Administrator Controller Smith for going to the city commission meeting and making some really good points. That's probably why it was 75 and not 100. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
How's it going to get the new software, which will be a budget projection for 5-10 years down the road? How's that going?
We are in, would you say about 80-90% complete on getting all the data input. When we're going through the system, we've had weekly meetings with Scenario to go over what do we want to see and how specific we want to see in all the funds. We don't need to see specifics in all the funds, but what funds we want. So we've been having these monthly or weekly meetings to go over that. What do you think? It's another,
Right on, what their projection was. Their projection was, hopefully to have full implementation by the end of this month, and we are, I think, gonna hit that goal.
so then the hope is that we plan on presenting that out into the August.
Towards the end, yeah.
To the end of August. Yeah, when we
Get
get,
to use it.
yeah, so when we play around with it a little bit more with actuals and stuff, so we'll have this presentation in probably late August before you approve the budget. You'll be able to see all the different scenarios. That's why you authorize the purchase of this, and so you can see what the forecasting would be by adding and subtracting positions or having, different property tax collection increases or any other factors that may go along with it. I think that's gonna be very valuable to everyone.
And understand, it's just a tool. If you don't have a crystal ball in front of you to know that you've hit the mark on a lot of the projections, but it's a very useful tool. And I know that as one of the commissioners that worked on a zero-based budget system, that administration continues keeping an eye on what's important and not allow budgets to be expanded without good reason.
And we also know, and as we talked about MERS previously, this fiscal year 26, we're going from 2.7 million to almost 3.1 million in just in pension costs. We've already got the actuarial study because it's 2 years behind for what it's going to be in 27, and it's over. It's slowed down a little bit, but it's still well over $200,000 just in pension costs, and and that is having very few active employees on there. We're still paying for the liability for a lot of past employees, and so that is another factor that'll be wonderful to put into the system so that we can see what that is. I mean, that's a big chunk of the budget is that defined benefit. Yes.
And we'll be able to have it in real time here, maybe.
Yeah, so
And then
it'll be up on the screen
On
so
the screen,
everybody
okay.
can see it. So if you got a question, just say, okay, what if we have a situation where we have a 0%? We have property taxes go 0 for whatever reason, or 1, we can plug it in as numbers and then it's automatically gonna show you current and then forecasting it all the way out. And then we can dig into some of the major funds. If you want to see Commission on Aging, we'll be able to get into that as well. So it's not just a general fund tool. It's gonna be
More factual.
yes, sir. And we're not playing with formulas that there might be an error in the formula that we're not aware of. And so you got a question, well, how'd you come up with this? And we can hit explain, then we can hit explain again. It's all gonna pop up on a drop down screen and you're gonna see exactly what went into those calculations. And it's reproducible. And I think that's the key. It's reproducible year after year, and modifications will be made ongoing to this model.
That transfer in from other funds, that's all CPL?
No, the transfer, that's your indirect cost.
Oh, okay.
The CPL was just an increase of 15,000. That would go
Okay.
into, but the other fund is mainly your indirect cost, which, is your
Yep.
Commission on Aging, your MERP, but we also included, and we've had conversations, and it does include some monies coming in from the Great Lakes Bay, workforce, so that Michigan Works. And so that does include it, and that's an ongoing process. Your next meeting, you're gonna start seeing more stuff related to that Great Lakes Bay, Michigan Works. Getting contract signed and getting rolling on that, but that right now, we've pegged about 203,000, I think, into that, if I remember correctly, into that. So, that is a process that we will have done and ready and by October 1st.
Good questions? Comments? I see the tax, expected to increase pretty nominal, about 2.5%.
Yes, that would include that tax capture that went out in 90. And so that, and again, remember this current year budget, we did reduce revenues on the taxes by 250,000. because of the solar that was not on the tax levy. So that'll be reflected on this current year's amended. But as you carry forward, it's all reflected in those. Then you got depreciation tables for your wind and solar as well that have to be calculated also.
All right, any other questions, comments?
And one last thing, if I could, just to follow up with Commissioner Marino, I would like to commend the city for taking the time to listen to me and to get that 75% done. You know, they have every right to collect it, and I thank them for the 75% tax rate collection that they did. They know they've got great projects, not disputing it, but it just has to, well, any little bit of money helps.
Absolutely. Excuse me. Okay. If there are no more questions or comments, we'll close that portion and we don't have any intergovernmental affairs, no administrative controller issues. No unfinished business or new business. That brings us down to general public comments. For general public comment.
I just wanted to really quickly, I was gonna type this up. I know the administrator's been wanting to share some positive items at the end of meetings. It's been a busy time, so I didn't have time to type it up from this morning, so I thought maybe I would just try to do this quickly myself. I'm very proud of our staff right now out at the Coldwater Lake Campground. We are 100% fully booked every weekend in July. Out at Herrick for the month of July, we were 100% full for the holiday weekend. And then we're booked 84, 74, and 79% capacity for the rest of the July weekends. So we've been very full. The campgrounds are doing well, and I'm proud of that, but I'm also proud of our staff. Everybody's working their butts off right now, doing a really good job. Things are running smoothly, and I've been very happy with how the season is going, despite some chaotic incidents. So I just wanted to share that the campgrounds are performing well, and our department, I just couldn't be more proud of the staff. Cabins at both campgrounds are 100% booked for the entire month of July as well. So it's just nice to see that people are enjoying those facilities and coming out and using them. And obviously it's great for our department revenue too. We've had staff who I know just last Wednesday night I felt awful at 9:30 at night. Our maintenance coordinator had to go out and deal with an electrical issue. He called me after 11 o'clock and was just wrapping up with dealing with it. We've had other on-call staff who are dealing with issues in the middle of the night this season too, and I haven't heard a single complaint. Everybody just shows up and does their job. So I just wanted to share that so that the board knows we're running at full capacity right now and things are going well. And I also wanted to extend a quick thank you to Central Dispatch. They're taking quite a few calls, at least a few dozen calls from our facilities this year and doing a great job with that. The Sheriff's Department just recently helped us with some of our behavioral management processes that we've implemented. And we're getting a lot of good response from the state police too. So just wanted to give a little bit of a positive report, say thank you to our community partners and let the board know that the parks are in full swing and going really well right now. So now I'm gonna go knock on wood somewhere.
While here, are your seasonal staff, you're all fully staffed there? I know it's always been a problem.
Yeah, we are fully staffed.
Great.
I mean, we have a few positions that we didn't fill, but again, with everybody working so hard and being team players, we're getting through it just fine. So yeah. All right. Well, thanks for the opportunity to share.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else for general public comments? Okay, seeing no one else, announcements. Announcements, yes, sir.
Obviously, I wasn't selected to be seated on a jury this morning. I get to call the hotline again tonight at 4:30. So the process continues to the month of July. So I apologize for walking in late, but I got here as soon as I could.
Great, thank you. Any other announcements?
Just like Steve was able to find a HVAC technician, Josh, and all early reports are that he's doing a heck of a job and people are very happy to have him here, and we're very, very fortunate to have him here. So that was we're very fortunate. And I also like shout out to Alexis. I was able to take a tour of the parks for the first time about a month ago. She was able to find some time. And, you know, that really is a gem, that, I know the park system and the staff, and everybody that's out there, it's, you know, highly commendable staff. Very, very good.
Thank you. Any other announcements? Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Support.
Moved and supported, and we are adjourned at 11:00.